gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's September the 19th, 2023. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined today by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented this morning by GameTime.co, the industry's leading app/website for your last-minute ticket purchase needs. GameTime.co is where it's all at. We'll talk a little bit about Game Time later in the show. But Matt, you had a nice weekend, I know, and everybody kind of got to chill this weekend, watch a lot of football, which means that a lot of people became interested in Colorado this weekend. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but it's kind of weird. Like, I almost feel like the season's starting all over again this weekend at Temple. I feel like we've just had like a pause when you couple like the few days off plus playing Bethune-Cookman, which was just a totally ridiculous exercise. I really, like I think I said last week, I wish they would stop scheduling those games. But it's kind of like, it feels like everything's kind of ground to a halt with the Hurricanes. And now they're going to crank up again with Temple. And then they've got an open week. Then they got Georgia Tech. So we're kind of like in a little bit of a pause, sort of building up to the middle of October when they go to North Carolina, and that's when it's going to get real. So, you know, you've got Hurricanes showing up in Colorado to be Colorado fans. You've got CaneSport staffers showing up in Wisconsin to be Wisconsin Badger fans. Like, all hell's breaking loose right now, Matt. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I follow the Miami Hurricanes, but what I will tell you is that Miami fans are getting very bored because one of my, I have a lot of major fans out there. My biggest fan is Eddie Mac 66. Little known fact, if you're a New Yorker, I assume this was him because there was Crazy Eddie commercials when I was growing up in New York. I assume that's Eddie Mac 66 because he's a little crazy. And I mean that in the best possible way, Eddie, because you and I have been having some good discussions on the message board. But like the rest of the Miami fan base, like, it's just boring right now. The Texas A&M one was so great and so exciting, and then you get these horrible Bethune-Cookman and a terrible Temple team and a not real good Georgia Tech team. It's like a month, it feels like. Well, it is a month, basically, of just nonsense when you just want to have a decent opponent you get excited about beating. But Eddie Mack made a fair point. He said, hey, Matt, do you remember a year ago? I barely remember yesterday, Crazy Eddie, let alone a year ago. But he said, do you remember a year ago when you criticized Tyler Van Dyke and you wanted him benched and you said he was terrible and whatever. To which I responded, very nicely because I'm a nice person. I responded, F you. And then I didn't say that. I responded, look, he's right. Tyler Van Dyke, for those that don't remember, the first 3 games last year, whatever it was, he was not good. And it was on him, and it was on Josh Gaddis. You could say it was more on Josh Gaddis than on Tyler, and you could certainly say that even more now based on what you can see from what he did under Rhett Lashley and now what he is doing, obviously, under Coach Awesome. So you can certainly blame Josh Gaddis more, but the truth is he had the same receivers last year. The offensive line wasn't good last year, that's for sure. But Tyler made some bad throws and bad reads, and you could see it on film plainly. And God forbid Matt Shodell said Tyler Van Dyke wasn't playing well last year, because now that he's amazing and is like the second-ranked quarterback in Pro Football Focus grades, and every pass is like perfect and every read is perfect, God forbid, I said he had a couple of bad games last year, and God forbid that if they lost to Middle Tennessee and their season was basically over in terms of their main goals of the year, God forbid, I said, let's see what Jake Garcia can do in a full game. Let's see what Jakari Brown can do in a full game, because Miami needs to know what the future holds. It's no longer about this year, it's about the future, right? And the funny thing now, so, I mean, that's what actually happened. I don't know if Crazy Eddie agrees with me or not, but that's what actually happened. And so now we're in the situation where the future might be now. Like, Crazy Eddie sold, like, he had a store. It was a big New York chain back in the day.
Crazy Eddie, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a New York thing. Maybe it was national. I don't know. But anyway, now maybe the future is here now. Like I was saying last year, it's going to take 2 to 3 years, right? Because they were 5-7, they were just bad. And I said 2 years to 10 wins, 3 years to the playoffs. But now, like all of a sudden they beat one team, right? But it just looks like everyone else on the schedule is so. Like, yeah, Florida State's really good. Okay, I'll give you that. But Clemson, they're beatable, right? North Carolina, they barely won in overtime against App State. They've played nobody else, and they won't have played anybody else meaningful until they play Miami. Who else does Miami really play? Miami doesn't play Duke, and not that Duke's some great team either, but Duke is the team that beat Clemson. Miami doesn't play them. So, like, why can't Miami just lose one more game? I mean, on paper, it's very possible. North Carolina is just a few spots ahead of them in the rankings. And again, North Carolina's played nobody. The other team, the other teams in the ACC ahead of them in the rankings, Duke still plays FSU, and Duke plays, there's another, who is there?
FSU almost lost to Boston College this weekend.
Yeah, that's true.
While you were gallivanting around,
I was watching that game. I was watching the game. Anyway, Duke has a couple whoever the other good ACC teams are. That's who Duke plays. They don't have an easy schedule. So I mean, Miami could easily sneak into the ACC championship game if they keep playing the way they have been playing. Because I said this in game one. I said game one is not about winning. They're going to win game one, right, against Miami, Ohio. It's about how they look. And clearly we said after the game, and we both said it, they look good. Like, it wasn't just that they won the game. It was how they looked doing it, right? They looked like they were very efficient, understood everything on offense. Defense looked very, multiple, even though they tried to keep it a little vanilla. But you could see some of the things they were doing and how they were going to work, and the players seemed to really grasp it. And that showed up against Texas A&M. Bethune, throw it out the window, but they still were efficient. They looked good. They did everything right. Like, we've covered this team a long time, Gary, and you can tell against the bad opponents if the team's good or not, right? It's just like watching somebody throw. I was at a different college football game last weekend in Wisconsin where my son goes to school, and I did a shot ski. You know what a shot ski is, Gary? Now you can look it up. I did a shot ski, but that wasn't the highlight. The highlight was watching some of these college kids just throw a football around, just have fun, just have a good time. It reminds you of when you were in college and things like that. But you can tell just from watching somebody throw a football, like, if they are any good. You could literally just watch somebody throw a football or throw a baseball, and you could say, okay, they're good or they're not good. It's that simple. And it's for someone who understands football. I'm not saying I do, but for someone who understands football, you watch a team play a game, you understand, like, okay, they know what they're doing. And I can tell you, over the last decade, I would say that about the defense half the time, and I would say that about the offense maybe half the time, but very rarely would I say it about both. Very rarely. And I can't actually think of a season, even that 10-0 season, I wouldn't have said it about both. This year, honestly, for the first time in 19 years, I feel like I can say it about both. I'm not sure yet, but that gut instinct that had me predict Texas A&M, right, the win over Texas A&M, that same gut instinct is telling me this is a really, really good offense, which is what I said before the season. I thought the offense was going to be really, really good. My concern was on defense. And now I think the defense is really good. Like, not as good as the offense, but good enough. Plus defense. Not middle of the pack defense. Top third, maybe even better, of the ACC on defense. That's all you need when you have a really, really good offense. So, like, put me, take negative Nancy, negative Nelly, whatever, and make him positive Petey.
Nancy, you're definitely negative Nancy.
I'm positive Petey.
Forget Nelly. I like Nancy. You're Nancy.
Until further notice, I'm positive Petey.
No, you're negative Nancy.
Literally the last 2 minutes, have you not listened to a word I've said?
Listening, I'm just giving you a hard time. So it's just been kind of interesting. Got a chance to watch a lot of football this weekend while you were playing and drinking shot skis, whatever. What is a shot?
Oh, you looked it up?
No, just tell me what it is. I don't need to look
it up. It's like if you picture a ski, like what you ski on, right? Something you've probably never done in your life.
Like a real ski?
Because only coordinated people can ski.
A real ski.
It's not a ski, but if you picture a ski cut in only the middle board, and you drilled a hole in each, every 6 inches in the board, and you've drilled it in the shape of a shot cup or a shot glass.
Right.
That's what it is. Then you have people line up, and
everybody does
it over
shot
with somebody standing in each spot, and every person has to drink their shot as they tip it over.
Doesn't sound very sanitary, I'll tell you that.
Let me tell you, I said, has anyone else touched their lips to this shot glass?
Seriously.
And they're like, no. And I believe them. I don't know why.
Wow. Well, at least you're still alive and you made it home. So
listen, I have an excuse now. I got gonorrhea from the shot ski. It wasn't anything else.
Exactly. So anyway, so while you were messing around in Wisconsin, I was watching a lot of football, and man, Florida State almost lost to Boston
Yeah,
College,
I
and
watched
I'm
that.
like sitting there thinking, this Boston College team doesn't seem like they're very good. But then all of a sudden, they're almost beating Florida State, and if they didn't have 150 yards and penalties, they might have done it. And
Yeah.
so I immediately
I mean, that last
went.
face mask call, if not for the last face mask call, they still might have won at the end.
I
It
mean,
was
that
just a
was
dumb
unbelievable.
play by the defender.
It was horrible. Yeah. So I immediately went and booked my travel for Thanksgiving weekend. I was on the fence. I'm like, I wonder if this game's really going to be meaningful. It's the day after Thanksgiving. It's going to be a pain in the butt to get in and out of Boston, the whole thing. I said, now it's on. You got Boston College, you got Blake James, uh, there. Heck, by Thanksgiving, Manny Diaz might be the head coach at that school based on what I saw this weekend. I forget his name, how you pronounce the coach's name, but he's not long for his head coaching career, based on what I saw the other day. Very undisciplined football team. They had like 150 yards and penalties. Like I said, I mean, I know it was Florida State, and he just doesn't say, I don't know, man. I got the wrong vibes watching that guy on TV in that game. I don't see Blake James sticking with him. I think this will be it for him at Boston College. And I bet you Manny Diaz is on the candidate list. Just throwing that out there.
I mean, I don't think you understand. Blake James will only fire somebody if there's somebody available to be hired the very next day. So he doesn't want to do a search.
He can recreate the hiring of Manny in Boston. It'll be interesting. But anyway, so I watched that. What else did I watch? I watched Alabama struggle against South Florida. Man, I can see why they might have wanted Tyler Van Dyke. Their offense is really hurting. And now there's rumors coming out of there that Kevin Steele's already been sidelined as the defensive coordinator, and T-Rob is calling the plays up there in Alabama. I have no idea if that's true or not, but it's good for a little drama. A little excitement up there. Nick Saban, he doesn't play, and when they lost to Texas at home, that put him over the edge. So anything goes at Alabama now. But that was kind of interesting to watch them. I watched the Florida Tennessee game. Oh my God, was that a freaking piece of work to watch? Tennessee is horrendous. I mean, absolutely horrendous. Florida was good in this game. They were at home, a lot of emotion. They dominated Tennessee. Tennessee was the worst SEC team I've ever watched. I mean, they couldn't make a tackle. A simple tackle. Guys were just thumping. It was like they were in the early days of fall camp when they were thumping instead of tackling. I mean, a Tennessee defender would be right next to a Gator running back or receiver and wouldn't even use his arms to wrap him up and tackle him. They were like bouncing off of them. I've never seen anything like this. Tennessee should be embarrassed, humiliated, whatever word you want to use, the way they played at the Swamp on Saturday. They got their butts kicked. And now everybody thinks Florida is back on track for a great season this year. I'm personally not convinced. I thought they'd win 5 games. I'll give them 6 now since they won that game. I don't think they're going to be much better than that. I thought the Florida State performance kind of totally dispels this rampant mindset that Florida State's just going to cruise over everybody. They got to play Clemson here. And I think, hopefully Miami shows up for that game in Tallahassee in November, playing pretty good football, and it'll be game on, I think, if it works out that way. And I hope it does. Obviously Miami has to stay healthy. Still not a lot of depth at a lot of positions, as we know. So there was that. And then I capped off my day watching the Deion Sanders shit show from Colorado. and I mean, it's unbelievable. He had Lil Wayne leading the team out of the tunnel before the game, doing a rap, Matt, doing a live rap. Lil Wayne. I mean, I have never in my life, honestly, I give Deion so much credit for what he's doing in Colorado. He is transforming things. He is outside the box. He's endorsing everything. You watch a Colorado game on TV, as a lot of people are, and you're watching, his commercials are on the telecast of the game. This is unprecedented. This is unbelievable. He is endorsing everything. He's endorsing ties. He walks into a team meeting with a box of ties, gives all his players new ties. He's endorsing sunglasses. Same thing. Gifts all his players brand new sunglasses. And then all of a sudden, all these former Miami Hurricanes are showing up in Colorado. Michael Irvin's been there. Warren Sapp has been there. And then Saturday, Game Day is in town. And by the way, not only was Game Day in town, but Fox Sports' pregame show was also in town. This is Colorado that won one game last year playing Colorado State, which is a horrible football team. Okay? I mean, this is unbelievable. Game Day and Fox Sports pregame shows are both in town. The Rock, who's never shy about exposing his brand and promoting, had to be in Denver for a taping on Friday night of WWE SmackDown when he, made his return to the wrestling world. I think they're going to put him in WrestleMania in April. He's done a contract with WWE, and he's all jacked up. He's been working out for this, and he's ready to go. So he had an appearance on SmackDown on Friday night in Denver, and then he books himself. Friday afternoon, he was in Boulder and booked himself onto the Pat McAfee show. Then he went over to Denver, which I think, how far is Denver from Boulder? About an hour or so?
I've driven it. No, it's a little further, I think, but it's not that far.
But he's probably getting flown in a helicopter. But anyway, so then he goes from Boulder to
it's
Denver.
not that far. Yeah, it's not that far. Yeah, under an hour.
Drive?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So nice memory, Matt. You said 2.
Listen. My brother lived in Denver, and we went all over the place. I thought Boulder was somewhere else, obviously.
I mean, I started thinking it was an hour to begin with. Now you got me off on this too. But anyway, so The Rock goes to Boulder and does the Pat McAfee show. Okay, then he goes to Denver and does SmackDown, and then comes back to Boulder on Saturday to do Game Day, and is on Game Day with Dion, and Dion puts his sunglasses on him. And so now he's got The Rock endorsing his sunglasses. And then The Rock takes off his jacket and he's wearing a Colorado shirt. I'm like, what am I watching? I mean, so this gets my phone starts going insane. Fans, former players, everything starts hitting my phone. What is going on here? Why are players on Game Day wearing Colorado shirts? And our message boards became like a civil war. Like people listen, Deion Sanders is the talk of college football right now. People want to talk about him. And there was a lot of conversation on our message board. It was an off Saturday about Deion in Colorado. Well, a lot of Canes fans were offended by this. They're messaging us. Ban these people. They're not allowed to talk about Colorado on a Canes message board. Why are you guys allowing this? So now we're supposed to censor a large number of our subscribers because they want to talk about Deion in Colorado, which is only the talk of college football. I mean, everybody's talking about Deion in Colorado. So it has been a little crazy for an off weekend, but my point is none of this is about the football team at Miami. It's kind of
you're actually wrong about that. You're wrong about that because what football program had a rapper who was famous, who was a big name within the program? What football program did Deion Sanders
Luther Campbell never led the Hurricanes out of the tunnel, ever.
What?
He never led the Canes through the smoke. But I get what you're saying. I'm not.
Here's what I'm trying to tell you. Deion Sanders was raised basically on Miami football because when he was at FSU those 4 years, Miami was ranked number 1 at some point at all 4 of those seasons. And Miami, that was the swag. That was Jimmy Johnson. That's what he saw. He's just taking it to another level. I'm trying to think of a political comparison of somebody, it could be at the U.S., whatever. It's like, you get one crazy dictator, but the next one's even crazier, does even crazier stuff. Miami was crazy. Let's face it. Miami was crazy, right? And Miami was the talk of the town, just like Deion is. Deion has taken Miami and what it was in the 80s and moved it to Boulder, Colorado. That's all he's done. This is Miami. It's just in Colorado. He's recreated.
Would you agree he's taking it even to a whole nother level? I mean,
he's recreated what he saw at Miami and taken it, like I said, to a crazier level.
Wayne is live rapping.
He's gone as far off the deep end. Like if back then, if you could take what Miami was and amp it up 50 million times.
That is what he's doing.
That's what he's done. But he saw what Miami did. And that's exactly what he's trying to replicate. He's trying to be Miami and Colorado. Like, I'm telling you, that's where he learned this.
I know.
He would not know to do this if he didn't see, Miami Hurricanes and fatigues coming out of a plane. If he didn't see, what Jimmy Johnson was saying to his team and doing with that team. If he didn't hear these stories of, Miami players calling up a bowl opponents and trash talking them the night before the game. Everything that Miami did back then, there's stories that haven't come out from those days that Deion knows about, all the craziness that made Miami, Miami. Deion's like, if I'm a coach, how can I make it different than everyone else? How can I attract attention? How can I make recruits want to come to me? Oh yeah, Miami Hurricanes, the swag that Miami lost the last 19 years. I'm just going to copy it and bring it to whoever will take me. Colorado will take me. This is what you're getting. This is exactly the blueprint that Mario Cristobal has at Miami. The blueprint for Deion Sanders is Miami, but it's the Miami of the 80s on steroids. That's what he's done. Now, is it going to work long term? I mean, are players going to start getting arrested? Because I spent a lot of time in court when I covered the team.
Don't let them beat Oregon this weekend. I'll tell you that.
You get problems that come with the swag and the craziness and the do everything. They've
got Colorado all of a sudden ranked in the top 20, I think, this week.
His saying isn't do anything the way you do everything. His saying is just do anything. Do anything. That's his slogan. So yeah, he's got Colorado ranked. Obviously, he's got the nation's attention on him, just like Miami used to. And I'm sort of upset that Miami's not what Colorado is right now. Because how much fun would we be having down here if everyone in the country was complaining about Miami and saying, why does Miami get to do this? How come Miami gets to do that? How come there's ads with the Miami players in the middle of the broadcast with the coach eating, at Taco Bell? Like, that's what I wanted down here, but nobody had the guts to do it because honestly, like, you got to be a little crazy. You got to be a little crazy, as an administration to allow it. You got to be a little desperate as a school to allow it, right? In this current day and age of, PC world and do everything by the book and, work hard in your classes and get good grades and go to study hall. And, oh yeah, you could also play football, but that's not as important, Deion turned it all on its head, and he's the only one that's had the guts to do it. And Colorado's been the only program, major Power 5 program that's been willing to take the chance because, you saw what happened at Bethune when they tried to take Ed Reed, right? And Ed, this will not work for me. Fix this, fix that. This program sucks. Like he was going to try to do the same thing at Bethune, and Bethune's like, no, goodbye. Colorado's like, dude, we're in Boulder. There's nothing going on here anyway. Like, we're on the map. We're just happy to be on the map.
They are on the map. There's no doubt about it. And, so then in the game, the game was totally insane. Colorado State had like 170 yards and penalties, one of which was they got this big safety who takes out Travis Hunter. Okay, I mean, on the Colorado sideline.
Oh, that was such a cheap shot.
Such a cheap shot.
From around the other guy, we couldn't even see him.
And lived to talk. Like I think they were in such shock at what he just did that they didn't react. It's fortunate they did not, because I think this guy would have got like mass assaulted if they had realized, like if there wasn't the element of surprise. I think they would have, that team would have in unison gone after him. And it probably would have been, there would have been such rage. It would have been unstoppable. But they take out Travis Hunter. But anyway, then they're beating Colorado. I think they're up by 11 at one point in the fourth quarter, and they totally choked, including their loudmouth head coach. I think his name is Jay Norvell or whatever. I mean, this guy, okay, Colorado State stinks, okay? Like, they're playing for nothing, and they have 4th and 2 at, like, the 40-yard line in the fourth quarter. You got Deion Sanders' son at quarterback on the other side, who's been the hottest quarterback in college football, basically, this first early part of the season. Like, you're going to punt and give him the ball back with a chance to go down the field and tie the game and get a 2-point conversion and force it into overtime. This was the dumbest decision I've ever seen in my life. And that's with the fact that the punter did an unbelievable job and kicked the ball to the 2-yard line, okay? You have to go for that. There is not even a decision there. 4th and 2, the game's over if you get it. and he punts it back to Colorado. Okay, they picked up 35 yards, whatever. Colorado, then they go into a prevent defense, basically. And Colorado, like, I don't think there was an incomplete pass the whole drive. Like, they just go down the field at will. And then finally, there's a coverage breakdown deep up the left sideline. They get the touchdown to win. They get the 2-point conversion. The game goes into overtime. P.S. Colorado wins. And now everybody's got to endure this whole craziness for yet another week before they go to Oregon this weekend, where presumably Colorado will get beat. If they happen to pull an upset in that game, they forget about it. Shut down every other school in college football. It is going to be all about Colorado. And you know what? At that point, it would be justifiable because, they start, with that situation, and they go when on top of beating TCU at TCU, they then go beat Oregon at Oregon. I mean, mad applause, man. That team would deserve all of the props they're getting. But the interesting thing is that they were put together not too dissimilarly than Miami, just a little bit different, by heavy use of the transfer portal. A lot of transfers, a lot of free agents, like Matt tries to call them, and does call them. And it's worked for them. Like, they're a much better football team than a year ago. But anyway, so that was the weekend.
You think they're much better than a year ago?
Massively better.
Guessing?
Anyway, yeah, I know. It goes without saying. But anyway, I don't want to talk about everybody else this whole show. We want to get back to the Hurricanes. But it's just very interesting because with the Canes not playing on Saturday, there was this great pause, and all this other craziness was going on in college football. And that's why college football probably is the greatest show on earth, man. I mean, college football is incredible when you factor in all the different.
I mean, you obviously haven't been watching. You haven't been watching the Golden Bachelor previews.
No,
Bachelor in Paris, the greatest show on earth. What are you talking about? I know what you're watching in your basement, Ferman.
No, I have not.
The hesitation before he said no says it all.
But anyway, so before I start getting shredded on the YouTube comments for not talking enough about the Canes on this show, because some people are a little upset by this whole Colorado nonsense and all that. Let's get back to the point of the show, Good Morning CaneSport, where we're talking about the news of the day. And this morning we have a really, really, really interesting, it might have been an off weekend, but there's no chance with the quality of work that Matt's been doing in the film room over the last, week or two, that we were letting him just, before he went to Wisconsin, just sit there and twiddle his thumbs. I said, no, Matt, you got to get back in the lab. I don't care what you do. I want you in the lab, watching tape and bringing our subscribers at CaneSport.com some more of that scintillating content that you've been creating lately. So Matt goes in and he messes around a little bit like Matt does. I mean, you'd have to see it, but he messes around in the film room and pushes some buttons and things like that and watches this and watches that. And he messages me, I got it. I'm like, all right, what do you got? It's like Xavier Restrepo. So what we've got this morning is courtesy of Matt Shodell. We have a very, very, very heavy duty and interesting film analysis of Xavier Restrepo, who obviously is Tyler Van Dyke's favorite target. And you can check it out on the website. But Matt, why don't you give us a little synopsis right now?
I mean, look, I'm not I enjoy breaking down game film, but breaking down Xavier Restrepo after these first three games, I read a story yesterday about 58,000 pounds of ground beef being recalled over E. coli contamination. I honestly would rather have eaten 58,000 pounds of that beef than have to go through every single Xavier Restrepo clip. Because he's open every time. Like, there's nothing to write. Like, it's just, he's open. I guess I've written it over and over and over again. I mean, yeah, I showed you there are clips there you can see, and you can see how they're getting involved different ways. But 98.6% of the time this season, he's been in the slot, and he just has this knack for just getting open very quickly. And he's not the biggest, fastest, or strongest, but he's Tyler Van Dyke's roommate. And, you can just picture them sort of making these, talking amongst themselves at night, like, On this, you're going to throw me that. On that, you're going to throw me this.
I'm going to make sure you're one of the leading receivers in the country this year.
Yeah, I mean,
he was feeding like there's no tomorrow in the Bethune game.
I mean, like Peyton Manning had Omaha, and Tyler Van Dyke has, roommate, and they're 12 yards, 10 yards, 8 yards, touchdown, whatever. I mean, honestly, it's really hard for anyone to cover Xavier Restrepo one-on-one. Xavier is, this is an aside, but he's one of the most intense individuals. Nice guy off the field, but one of the most intense. When we talk about Dion being crazy, like Xavier's crazy, but he's crazy in a way you want as a football player. Like last year, we were doing blogs with him every week, and then he got hurt, he wasn't doing well, and he's like,
he resigned. He resigned in the middle of the deal.
No more blogs. No more blogs. I don't want. It was an NIL deal. He's like, here's your money back. He's so upset. He was so upset he literally couldn't even talk to us when he couldn't play. Like, that's how upset he was. And he literally told us before this season, his goal is to embarrass the other player in front of his parents in the stands. Like, that's his goal. I mean, that's not how I would phrase how I play football, but that's how he thinks. His whole life he's been told he's too small. His whole life he's been told this is what's wrong with him. That's what's wrong with him. This is why you're not going to be great. And you can tell, there's just something that maybe his therapist doesn't even know that drives him. And whatever, maybe it was in kindergarten, somebody took his favorite toy and wouldn't give it back. I don't know. But there's something not normal there, which makes him great. Because an average person, an average, football player with his skill set is just an average football player. And he's an outstanding football player. And what makes him outstanding versus average, like if you put Xavier Restrepo and made a clone of him, but without the guy taking the toy away in kindergarten, that guy's probably a third teamer, But the Xavier Restrepo we see, where that kid in kindergarten took his toy away and Xavier never got over it, like he's angry every single rep in practice. He's angry in his blog interviews when he's not doing well. He's angry. He will find something to be angry about and to motivate himself every second of every day that he needs to get to where he needs to be. It's a very, very rare quality. It's not one that I would have in a personal friend of mine, but it is one that I want in a player who's playing football for my team. And that's what this is. This isn't, hey, I want to be your buddy. Hey, I want to get great interviews with you, and I want you to be nice to me. This is, I want you to get 100 yards every single game. And, he's pretty much done that. And he probably will keep doing it. I mean, he is in store for potentially 1,000-yard season from what I've seen. I mean, that's possible. And what he's doing now is what I thought Ray Joseph would be doing, because they closed practices down. And what I had heard was that Ray was doing a lot of what we now see Xavier doing. And I think coaches were debating whether Ray was better suited to be the guy in that position. And whatever happened in the last couple of weeks of fall practice convinced them that no, even though Xavier's not as fast, not as shifty, he's the guy. And they were right. You can clearly see from the story this morning that this guy is going to be really, really difficult to stop for any defense that's out there, in this scheme.
Yeah, and it's weird. Like, he's not that fast. There's nothing that flashy, but like he knows where he's supposed to go and he gets there, and Tyler knows where to look for him. You could just see the connection they have, and it's just a nightmare for opponents because he catches almost everything. And he is like the prototypical, I would call him a possession receiver, except against Texas A&M, they hit that pass up the seam down the middle. So he doesn't have to be a possession receiver. He could be just a receiver.
I mean, the best way to describe him is like those little Wake Forest receivers, that have done so well. And you know what? That's something that fits the Shannon Dawson scheme perfectly. Yes. Tank Dell's not the biggest guy either, right? So they got the right coordinator for the Xavier Restrepo skill set for sure.
Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yes, and it's working. So Matt's got a film breakdown on Xavier Restrepo. So make sure you check that out on the website this morning. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the other stuff we got on the site today. But first, guys, let me take a moment here and talk about GameTime.co. And it doesn't matter whether you're trying to go to a football game, even if it's the Canes Temple in Philadelphia this weekend, or an NFL game, theater, doesn't matter. You want good seats, and you want to be able to buy them easily, and you want to know where you're going to sit, and you want it to be as easy as possible and seamless. And that's where GameTime.co comes in and will tell you that they are better than their competitors. And you shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time's fast and easy, and you could buy tickets for all the sports, comedy, theater events near you. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, like I said, and their best price guarantee, where if you find a seat in the same row and section for less money than you pay with GameTime.co, they give you 110% guarantee on that purchase. They will credit you 110%. And like I said, you can see the view from your seat. All the prices there are up front, no extra fees at the end. You buy tickets in seconds with a couple clips. And they are obsessed with finding ways to help you save money, and they do it through their flash sales, great deals, and sponsored deals as well for a lot of events. So make sure you check them out at GameTime.co. And when you go there, and you also can download the Game Time app as well. Very easy to use, very similar to the website, identical experience. So download the app or go to the website, GameTime.co. But when you create your account and you go to make a purchase, use the coupon code CANES, CANES, and they will give you $20 off your first purchase. That's $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, so make sure you read all the print on your screen. Create that account on the app or on the website at GameTime.co. Redeem the code CANES for $20 off. That's GameTime.co. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, all guaranteed. All right, Matt, let's get back to talking about the news of the day here. And so we talked about Restrepo. We also have an update on Tyler Van Dyke's fast start to the year and where that ranks him on the national stage. And we talked a lot before the season, Matt, about how Tyler Van Dyke was off the radar. He's not off the radar anymore after this start.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the numbers in front of me, but I think he's number 7 in the nation in passing efficiency, which Mario Cristobal calls number 1 in the nation in passing efficiency. That's what he said it yesterday. And I'm like, you know what? I'll just double check it. I'm a reporter. I better just make sure. I'm sure Mario's right. He must have looked it up. No, Mario didn't look it up. He just assumed, like, Tyler's been that good. I don't even need to look it up. This is Mario thinking, right? Mario's like, he's been so good, he has to be number 1 in passing efficiency in the nation. I'll just say it. You know, that's what he said. So I looked it up, and he's number 7, which I thought I got a chuckle out of that. But listen, compared to a year ago, all of Miami's metrics on offense are top 25 in, you know, everything: rushing offense, total offense, scoring offense. I mean, just a total turnaround from a year ago. And the story, I think we even mentioned where they were a year ago, you know, 85th in this and 92nd in that on offense. Just remarkable. And Tyler Van Dyke's a big reason for it. I mean, he's thrown, I think, 13 touchdowns and 1 interception, whatever it is. He's thrown only 1 interception. That's really the point of it. So he's making really good decisions. And his balls are so accurate, and he's able to you could see that he's able to really change plays to the line versus last year. We had to, you know, constantly look at the sideline to see what they wanted to do. They're really trusting him, and the players are responding. It's important to empower your players, just like it's important to empower anybody in life. You know, football is life, not just for fans, but for the players. You know, to be told what you have to do and be strict about it is one thing, but to allow a player to also use his intellect and his physical skills to make plays that are important in the course of a game makes those players much better players. And it gives them, you know, football is such also a mental game. You have to be excited to play. You have to want to play. You have to enjoy playing. And if they want you to be a robot, a lot of coaches want you to be a robot. Those coaches generally are not real successful, you know. And as good as Kevin Steele was, you know, in terms of knowing defenses, he's done it forever. He wants you to be a robot. You know, he wants you to have the eye discipline. Here's where you should be. And you weren't there. That's a check mark against you. Josh Gaddis on offense, same thing. This is exactly what you have to do. Now they have freedom to do different things on offense and defense. For instance, there was a perfect example. Lance Guidry yesterday was saying, I think it was Damari Brown was a nickel, right? And he said how Damari, there was a couple of checks that I think James Williams made the checks that Damari didn't hear or didn't understand what they were, and he was supposed to blitz. But that's just a player literally telling another player, I got you covered, blitz. Like Lance Guidry gives them that freedom. Lance Guidry didn't just call a play, and this is definitely what you're doing. Lance Guidry calls a play, and then they adjust based on what they see. And that normally is on Cam Kinchins. It fell on James Williams last time. At the linebacker level, you got Francisco Mauigoa also, dictating things to the front. And it's just, you could see the difference. When you empower players, they want to study more. They want to understand it because they know it's on them. It's not just, hey, that's the coach's fault because he told me to be there in this gap and the other guy screwed up. Remember how many times it was a take-a-turn offense, a take-a-turn defense. Oh, one guy did it wrong, so the play lost 18 yards. We fumbled, and they got a touchdown because one guy missed his block. That's not the case anymore because these guys are working in tandem. And when a play doesn't work now, it's not one guy. It's the whole team because the guy in the back made the wrong check. The linebacker had the defensive line, lined up incorrectly. Whatever it is based on that offense, it's on the players. It's I don't know how you say take a turn for 11 guys, but like, if it was 10, it would be decaturn, 9, 8 would be octaturn, whatever. My Roman, base roots aren't, my Latin base roots aren't that great anymore. I haven't taken it in probably 30 years, 40 years. I did take Latin for many years. But that's the whole point, right? So the players are empowered and you can see the difference. So important. Yeah. And I'm, fans who are used to me from last year and, even to some extent heading to this year, a lot of trepidation based on what you've seen for 19 years. Like you can sort of start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's really exciting. And
they just got to sustain it. And they're very focused in the building on just staying the course, staying grounded, and hopefully they can pull it off.
Oh my God. They asked Mario, Mario, can you talk about the great turnaround by your receivers? And he's like, I'm not going to praise them. Like he literally said that. He's like, I'm not going to praise them. Like, what's the matter with you for asking me to say something nice about people? What's wrong with you?
They're trying to stay very focused on let's get better every single day. And hopefully it works out. They play a solid game this weekend in Philadelphia. They play a solid game against Georgia Tech. And then they get to play North Carolina. Hopefully North Carolina gets through Pittsburgh. And it's 5-0 versus 5-0, big national game. That would be phenomenal. And I hope it works out that way. It's funny, just on a side note, big controversy at Alabama these days over who's calling the defensive plays. There's a rumor going around that Lane Kiffin of Ole Miss, who plays Alabama, is fueling quite a bit, that Kevin Steele's already been removed as the play caller in Alabama, and T-Rob is calling the plays. So Nick Saban denies it, but Ole Miss is preparing for both Kevin Steele's defense and T-Rob's defense. Pretty funny stuff there. A little drama with some former Canes coaches up at Alabama. But anyway, let's see. A couple other things that we have on the website today. Yesterday we had a lot of conversation with Mario and the coordinators. That's all on the website. A lot of it was off topic just because of the game situation being Bethune-Cookman on Thursday and it being 4 days later, but still some interesting tidbits in there. Make sure if you haven't checked that out yet, make sure you check that out. And we have a few different recruiting things for you to check out. A new set of On3 national rankings. The On300 rankings came out on Monday, and that had a lot of implications for Canes commits and targets. For example, Zaquan Patterson from Chaminade, the defensive back who committed a couple weeks ago, he shot up enormously in the rankings. So did running back Kevin Riley, who I just love. I mean, I've had a chance to watch him up close a couple times, and he is just going to be a freak talent at Miami. He shot up the rankings. So make sure you check that out. Everyone loves their rankings, and you could see who's making moves here during the course of the season. On a recruiting note, we also have an update on 2025 Edge, Amari Williams. The Hurricanes have done quite a bit early to make an impression on him. He shares his thoughts. And then we also have a story on 2026 American Heritage wide receiver Brandon Bennett, who is emerging as one of the top youngsters in South Florida in that 2026 class. We update his status and his conversations with the Hurricanes. So that's going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. We thank you so much for starting out your day with us. If you like this show, like this channel, hit your subscribe button, hit your like button. It helps us with the algorithms at YouTube and growing our audience. And if you are not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, please come on over to the website, join our community of fans, join the club, so to speak, become part of what we do every day at CaneSport.com, because your subscriptions are what allow us to do that. And very much appreciated if you become a subscriber. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you once again, everybody, and we will see you next time.